Good morning, everyone. It's always an emotional thing here, and to see many friends who are here to help change an industry. And as a reflectors, you know, I see standing room only. By the way, the seats here are still in the front, reflecting where this all started. And for those who are new, by the way, how many are here for the first time? Can you show of hands? Wow, majority of the team is new. So let me tell you a story. This started where Jack Jones, the original author of the FAIR Standard, and I were sitting on a bench on the, I think, on the rooftop of Moscone South, for those who know the RSA conference in San Francisco. And he had just delivered a keynote, and there were like 600 people in the room. And after the speech, there was a long line coming to him. It's like, Jack, we need this. We need to learn. And as I was reflecting with him, I said, Jack, how do we keep the industry advancing and have these people learn after your session in advancing this? And he shrugged his shoulder and said, I don't know. And we're like, oh my God, we need to make sure that this line of people that come after him want to continue to learn, get together, and we continue the discussion. And this gave birth to the FAIR Institute. It started at the beginning as a community of knowledge sharing. You know, we are sharing blogs, and a lot of the participants of the community were sharing their experiences. And before you knew it, it became something very big. An organization that's actually changing an industry in a very fundamental way. So for those who don't know the Institute, let me introduce you a little bit what we are about. So we are a research-driven, not-for-profit organization dedicated to advancing the discipline of cyber and operational risk management through education, standards, and collaboration. And so last year we said we're going to become a research organization because many of you came to us and many of your peers and saying, we need to advance this discipline further. What we've done so far is not enough. You give us a great model, and we'll speak more in detail about the things we have done. We need to research this, and we're willing to commit our time, our resources to help you do this. And so it is a volunteer organization. I volunteered since the beginning. I have a day job, and so we're changing the industry in a fundamental way. And now, not surprising, not surprising, to me very much surprised, but now that I think about it, we have been named one of the 3 most influential industry organizations in cybersecurity. And when I reflect on this, why is that? Because there's very few organizations that can basically help us think about cybersecurity in a different way. And the way we want to think about cybersecurity is about cybersecurity from the business perspective, operational risk from the business perspective, not the technical perspective. So we gave birth to an industry as multi-billion dollars spent in tools and tactics to detect threats and implement controls. But we still fail to ask very basic questions. When the board is asking how much risk we have, we still stutter. And so our aim is to basically turn what used to be an art into a science, and a business science that you can apply to consistently get business value. We are now 16,000 members. Again, from a humble beginning, me and Jack on a bench and a few friends had said, that's a great idea. We're going to write some blogs for you. It became a large organization. We now have members in over 100 countries. We have over 50% of the Fortune 1000 represented here, bringing their expertise and their questions as well to this forum. We trained, as an institute, over 10,000 people, not to count the many universities. There's several dozen universities teaching the next generation of leaders based on the principles that have been put forward by the FAIR Institute. So this is what the FAIR Institute has begun and has become. And thanks to many of you, that have been contributing to it. So I want to reflect a little bit about the change we brought about in the industry, because I oftentimes get self-critical, but it's good to come to FAIRCon, even for myself, and reflect on the progress we made. So in what ways did we advance the discipline of risk management? And it started in 2016. Very first FAIRCon, it was in a basement of a building with Bank of America. They very politely offered us a space, in this building. We were crammed in a room, 50 people, and basically demonstrating very technical things. And the questions we were trying to answer is like, can cyber risk be quantified? And we had people come on stages like, I'm doing it, and here's how I'm doing it, super technical, very geeky. But that was the question that we wanted to answer that year. because we were meeting with companies like, I'm getting questions, my board is asking me, how much risk do we have? And Jack, when he was a CISO Nationwide Insurance, he was asked another follow-on question, which is like, if I give you the $20 million you're asking for your cybersecurity budget, how much less? And Jack at the beginning, like many other CISOs in his footsteps, like when a bank said, is like, that's a difficult question to answer. And many CISOs in industry and many people in industry said, cyber risk and other forms of technology risk cannot possibly be quantified. And it's why? Too many variables. The threats are too dynamic. The environment is too complex. It cannot be done. And it's funny, I then met, on the heels of our proceedings, where James Lamb was here as first ever chief risk officer with that title in the States. Are you here, James, somewhere? He's over there. Okay. And he gave us hope, because he told me, listen, Nick, I've been around the industry. He held the, CRO title in many companies like Fidelity, GE, and others. And he said, cyber risk will follow the same trend as other forms of risk. I was here with a CIO telling me, cyber risk shouldn't be any different from market and credit risk. Those disciplines as well were being seen as untreatable. Too many variables, too many changing conditions, and you cannot possibly tame it. Yet, at some point, models emerged. They were able to, shape and make sense of the complexity. Data came, tool came, services came, and now disciplines like market and credit risk are well established within corporations, and the profession has advanced. The same thing has been happening in cyber risk. And so it started with that question, how much risk do we have? Can we answer? And the answer is a resounding yes, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. Second year, and I'm gonna just talk about a key milestone there in the advancement of the profession is, we said, so what? Should we do it? Why are we doing this? Because quantification, after all, it's a means. It's not an end in itself. What kind of decisions can we empower our organization now that we figured out how to quantify risk? And we started to think about what are some of the decisions we're facing, especially in the cybersecurity world that was very much in need for answering those questions. And it was like, and we separated things, I remember, in tactical decisions. I remember people coming from cybersecurity saying, Nick, I'm meeting people at audit. They have all this big list of findings. They're telling me these are high risk. I don't believe these things are high risk. But I have no means to call bullshit on that. We needed to, I think quantification can help me do that, so that if I can tell audit that this is small risk, I'm fighting big risk like this, I'm going to have a better discussion. And so we're starting identifying the many technical decisions on a day-to-day basis that we needed to make where quantification can help. And then we thought about, wait a minute, we're also making strategic decisions. We're moving to the cloud. Does it increase or diminish risk? Let's figure it out. We're launching a new streaming service. What is the right level of security to not crash on landing? What are the options I can give to the business to have the right level of security that the business can live with? Or, we have one of the previous participants, I think they're here as well, Richemont. It's a big luxury conglomerate in Switzerland. They buy a lot of companies, M&A. When the biome is on, they basically do a risk assessment. And I remember the first time I met one of the CEOs that was subject to their treatment of risk quantification. We quantified the risk. This guy was a skeptic about security. They were doing luxury, watches. And he got a risk assessment. And we basically did an assessment also before and after. If you implement this minimal level security, what does it do to reducing the risk to the business in dollars and cents? Actually, in that case, was like Swiss francs or something. The comment from the CEO of this company, not the CFO, the CEO of this company is like, it's the first time I understand the value of cybersecurity. And he invested in implementing security. So we are able to understand that cyber risk quantification and application of the FAIR model was really helping us make better business decision, stay out of trouble, and achieve this right balance between running a business and protecting it. And then moving forward, okay, we're starting to see value. We're seeing pockets of value where we can make better decisions and help our companies thrive. But how can we scale this? And we started to realize this is like, having some methodology, having a tool is something, but it doesn't help you if you need to change the hearts and minds of people. How do you take care of the human factor? the change management things. How do you make people change the way they think? And oftentimes, they may need to transition from a compliance view of things in cybersecurity or cyber risk to a risk-based view. How do you do this? Or moving from I feel this is a medium or high to, we have $400 million exposure on this thing. We need to do something about it. How do we change, moving from gut to be data-driven? And so we realized that you need programs. You need to treat this as a program, not just as a model or a tool perspective. And 2021, milestone of achievement. COVID hit. Everybody went home. The good thing what happened is Jack Jones, the author of FAIR, didn't have to travel and be in a hotel all the time. And he was able to finally tackle an untreatable problem in the FAIR equation, which is, how can we calculate the effectiveness of controls in the context of risk, either individually or as a group of controls? How do we do this? Because today, we're just using intuition. How can we measure, controls effectiveness scientifically? And he was able to come up, and we'll speak about it later in some of the sessions, with this model called FAIR Control Analytics Models. For the first time in the industry, you could scientifically measure effectiveness of controls, which was the key to automation, to automating risk management in cyber. Very big milestone. Moving forward, last year, guess what happened? We're here in the nation's capital. The SEC is not far away, and they start saying, we need to protect our shareholders. Cyber risk is a strategic business risk. It's not a technical risk. You companies need to be transparent about the issues you're facing in cyber like any other form of operational risk. And so to make you think hard about it, we're going to ask you to represent your top cyber risks in your annual statements about top risk you're facing as a business, so that investors can make informed decision and disclose, material risk within 4 days of assessment of materiality. Sounded like an innocent statement, but everybody went berserk with, what does materiality mean? And so a bunch of cybersecurity people was like, we never heard of the word. What does it mean? And people came to the institute like, can you help us define materiality? Like a CFO would, like an insurance company would. And that's what we did with the issuance of the FAIR materiality assessment model. Major progress in industry. Again, problem addressed there. How about this year? I'm making a bet that this is the year where we're going to see evidence, and you're going to see the fruits of it this morning already, where we can start managing cyber risk at the pace of the business, which is the theme of this conference. And I'm hearing it over and over. I'm going to tell a story here. Why did we pick up this theme? I'm going to put one of our attendees here on the spot here. We have here luck of having the CISO of Lloyds Banking Group, one of the leading UK Metro UK banking institution. And I was asking him, it's like, why is this topic mattering to you? And he was telling me, Nick, we're facing new business challenges. As a big bank, we have a traditional banking business, but we're competing now with a bunch of fintech companies. They're coming up with services to deliver more modern, financial services to our customers, and we need to keep up. And we have the business here acting like a startup, acting quick, launching a new business, and they need to do it in weeks. And here's my challenge. My traditional security playbook was based on compliance, takes me 18 months to deploy. They're asking me to come up with a security strategy within 8 weeks. There's no way I can use the old playbook. What's next? What can I do? Well, risk management is the answer. Let me understand what we're trying to do with this business, what the top risk scenarios are that we're going to face, and what are options to take care of the big blocks of risk so we can launch without a risk of a catastrophe. That's what it means to manage risk at a pace of the business. And so this is a trend that is really pervasive in the industry, and we see a lot of business drivers forcing our profession to evolve. We can no longer just do, oh, you have a security question? I'll come to you next month. It's like, wait a minute, I need to make a business decision today, tomorrow. We're going to acquire this company next week. We need to understand what are things we need to look at and quickly assess and make a decision on how much risk we're willing to stomach. If we need to adjust the purchase price of this company or not, I need an answer now. So we went from, can it be done? And at some point, it was manual. It took a long time. It was very difficult. Data was not there to do risk assessment, to now the business is asking us to move fast. And so this is very key. And so you can see here some of the drivers for these questions. Digital transformation, of course, the board now is asking those questions as well because they see this incident, they're getting worried, we're getting impact on the bottom line. What is security doing for us? What is the value? And here, I read this latest hack in the Wall Street Journal. What are we doing about it? How impactful it is? They want an answer today, not 2 weeks from now, where they could be hit. And now AI, you see it also AI. You see a lot of sessions this week on AI because people are going wild on AI. They see all these advantages in launching new and better ways to serve the public and one another internally in the company with the use of AI, increase of productivity, new products. And the afterthought is always like, oh my God, how about risk? How much risk does it represent? Does it introduce risk? What can we do about it? And we're going to talk about how, in the FAIR community, we're trying to tackle this. We also have regulations helping. We talked about it earlier, helping us. I think there's such thing as good regulations as well. And I see a positive evolution here. We're moving from cybersecurity regulations that used to be in the form of checklist. For those who are in regulated industry, you know this checklist. They're very long. When audit time comes, it's weeks and weeks of labor checking the box, and sometimes, not really solving the problem. I talk to many CISOs, and they tell me, Nick, I spend 60% of my team's time doing compliance, not actually managing risk. So nothing wrong with a list of best practices, but they need to be prioritized. They need to understand what are the best practices that matter in my context and matter the most that we need to focus on, and that's what risk management does to you. And so this is the intent of many of the new regulations that we've been, I hope so, also influencing in providing. And so we've seen the adoption here in the States of the rule on cybersecurity disclosures by the SEC. We're seeing similar trends in Europe. As of next year in Europe, critical infrastructure company will be subject to NIS2. Financial companies will be subject to DORA, a regulation to help improve resilience. The beautiful thing about these regulations, they're all there to incentivize a risk-based approach to running digital businesses and managing risk. They're asking you to up your game in risk management, to be transparent about the issues you're facing in business terms. And by the way, the Europeans also give you guidance, like materiality could mean things like 10% of your customer data being hacked, 10% of revenue impact, this much, employees, being exposed. But it also says, the regulations say risk is not just risk associated with your own assets, but is your entire attack surface. We need to think also about not only the confines of our company, but the third parties to whom we are delegating and outsourcing our services. You guys, if you're delivering that service and you're relying on a third party, you're liable to that as well. So they tell us we need to look at the attack surface and managing risk across the entire attack surface, including third parties. So they're really helping us think hard about how to do this in real time across those dimensions. And happy to say that at FAIR, we're trying to keep up with this and help the industry with your contribution, with our collective contributions here. And so I already mentioned some of it, but we've been working very hard in providing models that give you keys to automating, loss event frequency. Many people told us, listen, we're pretty good at estimating. Some companies told us at estimating losses because we had incident in the past, so we can come up with some benchmarks. But frequency, it's a hard thing. We want to be proactive and tell the business how likely is this to happen, and so what are the keys to do that? And so we came up with major advances in modeling with FAIRCAM and also mapping with MITRE ATT&CK. I know we have one of our board members that represents MITRE is here as well. And mapping the two, being able to correlate, the frequency of threats and to the state of controls was the key to really enabling, is the key to enabling automation in risk management. And so we've done great advances, and we're seeing tooling applying this in real life. The second thing we released last year, already mentioned, that is the issues of FAIRMAM. And this was important because you want companies saying, I need to spell and risk and get the attention of my business people in a language they get. I need to break it down in a language my CFO will believe and understand. I need to do it in a way my cyber insurance will give me credit for, so that when we're negotiating our insurance premium, we know exactly what we're covering, how much coverage I need, if I can get coverage, because sometimes they will not cover you if you cannot explain the issues you're facing. They will not cover for uncertainty. And so major progress there with not only issuance of FAIRMAN, but also real-life applications. And last, we made major progress. Last year, we said we're going to start a working group on third-party risk management. And this was very timely, because last year was the first time where the number of hacks companies were facing, the majority of them were driven by third-party hacks. And so we felt the urgency. We need to have a working group to figure this out and help us use FAIR to model and assess third-party risk. How do we do that? That group worked very hard, came up with a best practice that's been published. We got a lot of feedback, and it's becoming a standard, can I say, playbook to abide by. So we've been busy and really supporting some of these trends. And last is, of course, AI. Last year, people are going crazy on AI. They're adopting us without asking permission to business people. And can you help us assess this thing? Because we're a bit scared that the finger will be pointed to us, the cybersecurity organization or the CISO or people in risk management, saying, these guys went wild. Tell us if we have a problem or not and what we're doing about it. Please help us come up with a model that can help us manage this thing called AI. And so another working group sprang up. Leading companies like Meta, Google, and Databricks, and other people at SAFE, got together and have been modeling this. And we're going to have 2 sessions on the topic at the conference to tell you the advances we make. So hopefully this gives you a flavor for the type of challenge the industry is facing and how the FAIR Institute is tackling them and working hard to empower you to provide answers to those hard questions. And in terms of our growth now, I want to switch to a different, show you also the growth of the Institute. It used to be me as a volunteer and Luke Bader. Where are you, Luke? Luke, are you in the room here? So he probably is doing something. But Luke is our Director of Operations and Programs. The Institute was that. He was the only full-time employee for the longest time. And I was a volunteer, supported by many volunteers that are also here in the room. And I made the case for many years that we needed somebody full-time to be the managing director. It took me 4 years to find the right person. And we finally landed this gentleman. You'll see his picture, his name on the screen here. His name is Todd Tucker. And let me tell a story before I welcome him to the stage. We worked together over 20 years ago, 24 years ago. We were in a company called eSecurity. eSecurity was the first SIM product before companies like ArcSight. And our fame at that point is like, we put all eSecurity events in a single pane of glass. Nobody else was capable of doing that before. And CISO said, great move. Problem is, I'm getting 20,000 alerts a day now in one screen instead of 20 screens, but I'm missing business context. And this is the job that we decided probably for the rest of our careers to figure out, and we want to finish here at the FAIR Institute with all of you, being able to put everything we've been working on in our industry in terms of business context so we can partner with the business, become indispensable partners to the business. With that, I want to welcome to the stage Todd Tucker. So.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right, good morning. So we got a little bit of a late start, so I'm going to get us back on time, but it's really good to be here. It's fantastic to meet all of you. Hope to get to know many of you very, very well over the years to come. So Nick mentioned where we met. We sort of re-met about 10 years ago at a company that I was at, an organization that we had founded called the Technology Business Management Council. And when Nick was founding the FAIR Institute, he reached out to us and he said, look, how'd you guys do that? What'd you put in place? So we gave him what advice we could, and he did that. What we did was we tackled a similar problem that FAIR addresses, but for CIOs. And so the similarities, I think, are really telling here. What we were all about was really the convergence of IT digital services, and finance from a discipline perspective to answer the question, are we getting value for the money that we're spending? So CIOs were really grappling with that. One of those CIOs was Rebecca Jacoby at Cisco, who reported to John Chambers, who's here in the room. Rebecca actually was the person that coined the term technology business management, so we can thank her for that. But it was really all about driving what we called value conversations. And so I had the fortune of being able to write the book on it, to run the community, to drive standards. We have a standard framework, education and certification, all the things that we do here. So it was a natural fit when Nick reached out again, and the timing is right for me to come on board. And I'm just super excited about it because there's such an incredible foundation here with the FAIR Institute in everything that's been done, the traction that has been gained on a global basis. I'm just amazed at the things that I hear. One of our colleagues from Ireland was saying, yeah, he was presenting in a conference there, and he had folks from universities there approach him and say, yeah, we're using FAIR in our courses. That's not even something we were aware of. So we see a lot of that. So amazing traction that we have. Now, what my near-term priorities are going to be, there's kind of 4 things that we're going to focus on. One of those is expanding research. And I won't go into a whole lot of detail here, but the one thing I will point out is that we believe that there needs to be an open and online cyber risk management and quantification framework. So right now what you have with the FAIR Institute is you have the FAIR model and the other standards, which are phenomenal. You have an enormous amount of resources. If you look online, I'm sure many of you use the website and the resources that you'll find there. If you don't, please do. There's an enormous amount of resources, but they're not organized in a way that sort of structures around a framework. So we're going to solve that, and we're going to work with all of you to do that. So I hope many of you are looking forward to getting involved in that. We're going to do other things that we can do through the community because of the power that we have as a community, such as benchmarking, research boards, and so forth. Next, we're in the process of elevating FAIR to the C-suite, where not only the CISO lives, but the CEO, the CIO, CFOs, chief risk officers, all those, but just as importantly to the board. So recently, the FAIR Institute, with the hard work of Bernie Dunn, who many of you know, Bernie worked with folks like John, like Yvette, like Lakshmi, who are all here this week, and many other board members, many other CEOs, and so forth, to create a course on Coursera. So we've now joined the likes of Stanford, Duke, University of Pennsylvania, about 335 institutions and companies. We've joined that ranks with a course, 4-course specialization as it's called, about 60 hours of training that is all about cyber risk management for executives based on FAIR. So it's a phenomenal course, and for those that want to dive into that, you can access that as a student. If you're paid, you can do that, but you can also audit it for free, so it is available to you. We're going to keep this up, though. Right now, Bernie is literally in a room over there, and she's recording other board members to do some training specifically for board members, especially like audit committee chairs or risk committee leaders and so forth. So that, too, is coming, and that helps us elevate what we're doing. We're also in the process of advancing the profession. So I mentioned the cyber risk, for executives. That is part of what you see on the top of this. We have FAIR Fundamentals, which many of you have taken and been certified with. But that's not it. We're going to launch training specifically in a curriculum for certification for cyber risk officers. So those people that run the cyber risk management programs could be VPs, directors, et cetera, could be CISOs, but also for the analysts as well. We feel that education and certification coming from the FAIR Institute is an essential part of our mission. So we'll be doing that as well. Look for more that we build and announce. Engaging and expanding the community is also crucial here. We're blessed by having many chapters around the globe. We have Sydney, we have Switzerland chapter, we have one in the UK, we have lots around the US. And so it's a global organization, but we want to continue that effort and improve the way our chapters execute, make it easier for our chapter co-chairs. And so one of the things we're going to do is leverage our ecosystem. We have a lot of partners, a lot of organizations that we work with that can help us and help our chairs get that work done. We also have a lot in the technology space that we work with that can also help us expand and engage on the community. So that'll be something else that we drive. One of the points you see there is I'm a big believer that when you launch training, it's an excellent foundation for engaging the community. But you only do that if you have trainers from the community. So we don't want people who they just train for a living. We want people that do for a living and then train on the side. So we're going to work with our community to source and certify trainers for the classes and the certification programs that I mentioned earlier. We're going to work with you all to do that because I think the experience that you get learning from other practitioners is far better than you get from just those who are paid trainers. So how can you get involved? Look, we're looking for people that can help us grow our chapters, be chapter chairs, speakers, hosts, all of that. So we want that. We need the certified instructors. We want people who are, again, experienced senior practitioners, people that are very comfortable getting in front of a group. You need to be the Bernies of your world. So if you've taken training from Bernie, you know what I mean. And then we need people to help write and create content and contribute from what you've done in your own professional lives. So people to contribute, whether it's from an authorship perspective, whether it's from helping us review content and so forth. And then lastly are the research boards. So this week, in fact, starting this afternoon, we have these invite-only CISO roundtables. The vision for those is that they lead into the research boards next year. So we have financial services, which we already have a research board for, healthcare, energy, technology, I know I'm missing one, consumer retail and hospitality. We have a cyber insurance one. And again, many of you have been invited to those. You've gotten lots of emails from me. And so we want that to drive into the research boards for 2025. So I think we'll have a real head start on that. So you see the email address there. I told Luke about this, and he goes, oh boy, we're going to get a flood. I hope for that. Please, it's an easy email address to remember. involveme@fairinstitute.org. Email us. Let us know how you want to help. We'll do our best to involve as many from this community as we possibly can. We can't do this without you. So anyway, with that, I'm going to leave it there, and I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm here to introduce our next speaker, but I want to give you some context first. And I want to tell you a story about the kind of things that happen within the FAIR Institute that can help change an industry. And this has to deal with two companies. As you know, we're trying here to also not only come up with theoretical models, but also build an ecosystem of solution providers, whether it's services, insurance providers, software providers, et cetera. And I've been part of one of those events, and I've been challenged last year. Last year, I was starting, as many of you may know, that I was a CEO of a company called RiskLens. And we were fortunate to have Jack Jones on our staff and be as the author of FAIR. We took pride in coming up with a solution that built a reputation for being the most accurate analytics in the marketplace based on FAIR. However, given there's a community of friends and open that really want results and want to see progress, they're also challenging me and telling me, Nick, what you guys are doing is accurate, but takes too much time. It's too hard. Requires people who have a PhD in FAIR. We cannot scale. You got to do something about it. And what was happening in parallel, something was irking me. There were people, irking me by, in a positive way in the industry trying to tackle this problem from different angles. And I remember this company, 2 years ago, there was a company called Safe that had product manager in the room, learning from about FAIR and saying there must be something here we can contribute, who actually was working on automation, on trying to consolidate all the signals, put it in a format that can be used for risk analysis. And what happened in the community is that we had several CISOs come to me, and the leader of this company, which I'll introduce in a moment, and tell us, you guys need to help the industry by getting together and collaborating because you do things that can help automate, FAIR. And by the way, this is not the only way that FAIR might be automated in the future, but we want to show you a way that has been done. And these things happen in the industry. These connections will happen, and more will happen, during this day. So let's not miss the opportunity also during our proceedings, including lunch and the breaks, to challenge one another, to push one another for the progress of the industry. And so we're going to show you the result of this challenge that DCs have put to us. Collaborate because we need to bring risk to a different level. And in their mind, it had to do with putting in the same sentence, cyber risk management, real-time, and automation. And based on that challenge from those CISOs, I got together with this gentleman, and it was, this was a potential competitor, and vice versa. Within 5 minutes, we realized that we shared a vision that was basically embodied by this community, and we wanted to do something about it. So very humbly, because I was CEO of that company, and he also was like, why do I need to engage with a potential competitor as well? We decided to look at this and see, can we solve some untreatable problems together in ways that nobody else has been able to do it before? And so this is what happens at FAIRCON as well. This is what happens at FAIR Institute.